All right, welcome everybody to the July Westbank Real Estate Investors Meetup. Anybody, it's your first meeting ever, raise your, yeah, right. Raise your hand. Everybody clap it up for the first time. People.
For a first time.
First time people. So we created this group to put people in the room together that would normally never be in a room together. So we have realtors, we have title attorneys, we have contractors, we have lenders, we have general contractors. So luckily today, our guest is all of them, right? So Nick Cepeda, we have, man, a tornado of skills. You have realtor, builder, contractor, and we're gonna talk a little bit about your background also as project management with energy, so which is a whole nother set of skill sets that you kind of stolen from the corporate arena, because now you real estate investing full time, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, so give him a hand clap.
Thank you.
Nick Cepeda. So Nick, the question we start off with everybody, how did you even get started in real estate?
How do I get started?
How did you get started in real estate?
Into this craziness?
Yeah.
So there was one day I was laying down. No, I'm just kidding.
That's how it starts.
That's right. And there was a meadow. No, I got started because I got tired of somebody controlling my life. And what I mean by that is when you have a job. Now that right now nobody is not controlling my life. You're always going to have somebody trying to tell you what's going on, but I at least wanted to have a little bit more control of my future. I just wanted to have take that back, and I just started looking at things to do, and just started talking with my business partner, which is Junior Cortez, and just started to say, hey, what can we do? And then he found out about NOREIA, which I know you mentioned in the past, and just invited me, and we went there and just started networking, started getting involved, and honestly just taking action, and trying to absorb as much as possible. And I know you said all those things, and honestly, guys, I don't consider myself anybody or anything. I'm just a humble guy.
Thank you for your humility.
And I'm just wherever I can do, and knowledge I can impart, we here.
So tell us about that first deal. So you working, you got that desire to where you just frustrated, you took action, first step, going to a networking space with people that think just like you, instead of being at the family barbecue talking about real estate and nobody cares about what you're talking about.
That's
so
right.
what was the
Except
first?
him and I.
Right.
Him and I are talking.
So what was the first step of action that actually got you into practicing a business? So
what we ended up doing is we just sat down and said, okay, how much do you have? How much I had at the time, and that's how we were able to get somewhat of a leverage. And then I remember there was this company called Castle Rock. I don't know if they're still around. If they
Are you a company?
What they do is that they buy this foreclosed homes.
Yep.
And then they go through the process, get people out, and then they go out and sell the property. So that's their business, and they happen to have one like on the opposite neighborhood where I lived, and we looked at it, and we went. We both looked at it. It's something like, okay, let's. It was super cheap. We had enough money to do what we thought was going to be enough to cover the renovations, and we just jumped in. First, and I can tell you that no matter how much you see YouTube, no matter how much you go out and see and study, unless you actually take the step to do it, you're really not going to learn. And that's like, if anything you're going to take out of this evening, I would say just, if you haven't, take action, take that action, right? To just do it, find out a way, because honestly, that's what entrepreneurship is, right? Finding solutions to problems. Like right now, what is our market problem? It's interest rates, right? So think of ways that you can solve people's problems that can't afford a home right now, right? Insurance, interest rate. So that's how people become successful in anything, right? Amazon, Bill Gates, and the rest. Yeah, just solving problems. That's what we're here for. You're always going to have a problem. Before this, the market was too hot, so you couldn't find anything, right? So the problem was you couldn't find anything. Well, now you can find everything, but you're not selling anything. So you're always going to have an issue that you got to deal with.
Yep. So tell us about their first project, because everybody's first project was a perfect deal. They knew exactly what they were doing. Everything happened ahead of time and under budget. So tell us your story, your
Absolutely.
success story, your first deal.
That's right. So again, we jumped in, we bought it. So literally we know that there was a shed that they had built in the back of it, which we thought it was actually a positive. And it was higher, it was taller than the house. There's an ordinance, and this is in Jefferson Parish, that you can't have a structure taller than the roof of your main house. So that was problem number one. Problem number two is, that it was a complete gut. I mean, we are first timers. We have, this is our first deal, and we're like, okay, so what do we do? Just rip everything out, and then as you start ripping everything out, that's when you start truly seeing what the problems are, where, you have termite damage. Now you need a new air conditioner. Now you need a new, all new electrical, all new that. And at the time, we had no knowledge, so having to rely on people and trying to get quotes on this, quotes on that, and trying to build that team, right? Which is, I think, the second key to success: building your team.
Yeah. So with those challenges, what lessons did you bring into the next project? What was the big takeaways from those mistakes, and what did you bring into the underwriting and the financing to the next deal from all those mistakes?
Right. So what we learned is that we needed to have a bigger error margin. We just didn't have one at the time.
What's the error margin?
So an error margin for me, for my business partner and I, is just, okay, so we do the math of what it costs, what we think it's going to cost to fix it. But I'm telling you right now, and I'm a contractor, and I do this every day, and I can assure you, you can talk to any contractor, it never goes the way it's going to go. So you always build yourself a little cushion, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I call that error margin. On that deal, we didn't have one, so we went way over budget. Thankfully, we not only did we went over budget, it was the most expensive house in the whole neighborhood. Mm. But because he was not done so nicely, and at the time there was so much need for housing, right? The rates were low and the whole nine. We were able to get a company to finance it, yeah.
So timestamp this for me. What year are we talking right now?
2015.
Your first deal, 2015?
First deal, 2015.
Awesome. So,
yeah.
And next deal. So now you know, and your error margin is, how you measure that? Is it percentage? It's contingencies? Okay.
Yeah, and as you start getting better, that gets smaller.
Okay.
So at the time, then we went for like a 10%. For the next one.
Okay.
Right. So that's how much of a cushion. Now, of course, you run that even lower. Mm-hmm. The few years back, where everybody's trying to catch everything, you even have to be even more tighter than that, mm-hmm. right? Because you're trying to catch something, at least to do,
right,
and make some money. And look, I've made money and I've lost money. So that's another lesson that you're gonna have to do. Sometimes you're gonna win, sometimes you're gonna lose. Yeah. The important thing is winning more than you lose.
Hey everybody, I'm Emil Hurst Jr.
I'm Ozzy Steve.
And we want to make sure we invite you to the Westbank Real Estate Investors Meetup every second Thursday of the month. Listen, if you're in the New Orleans area, 610 6th Street, Gretna, Louisiana, 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. every single second Thursday of the month.
We know the speakers are great, but when you come here, you get to network and meet everyone as well. So make sure you get here and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel too.
Back to the meetup.
Right?
Yeah. So, last question on the error margin, 10% of what? So for the person, the absolute first rehab, or the experienced person that's doing a different type of rehab, maybe luxury, maybe something out of the ordinary, 10% of what is your error margin?
Great question. And for us, is 10% of what we think is going to cost to fix it. So if it's 50,000, then we will add another 5,000, right?
Okay.
On top of that, if it's 100,000, then I'm adding 10,000.
Gotcha.
Right.
So that's the last line item.
That's the last line
once the
item.
budget is
Yeah.
finished. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha. What's some other challenges you faced when you first got started? So we know underwriting properties, things like that. What's some other big challenges you remember? And how did you overcome them?
So that kind of led into what we do today, which is, the contracting. Of course, it was contractors.
Yeah.
And just being able to find somebody that would show up, do the work, and do what they say they're gonna do, right? Mm-hmm. So that was one of the biggest deals that we had to do. But thankfully we had a great network. So if this guy failed, then we moved on to the next one. But then that just creates more headaches, more issues with timelines and the whole nine. So.
And how did you build that network?
So thankfully, my business partner's dad had a construction company already.
Okay.
So then he went in and started working. I worked for them for a little bit in 2005, and during that time, just started meeting people, getting to know people, and honestly, that is what I believe is one of the key to success for us. Mm-hmm. Just the amount of people that we know that we can call. If this one fails or this one doesn't show up, then I have 4 or 5 more in the list.
Yeah. What from you worked with that company in 2005, you started investing in 2015. What changes are you seeing in the construction industry? So as investors, we hire contractors. You are a contractor. So what is different in the industry from those decades, from then to today? Yep.
So the biggest thing is codes. I mean, let's be honest, guys. We live in the middle of Hurricane Alley, right? So last year, the 2021 national codes were changed, and the state of Louisiana adopted them. Not only did they adopt that, but they also changed the efficiency codes. So not only do you have to build more resilient homes today, which is a good thing, and more efficient homes. However, that does increase costs, right? And that cost has to be passed on to someone, and usually it's the end buyer. Yeah. So am I happy about all the things that they have agreed to? Of course not. I do see value in a lot of the things that they pushing for right now, especially the fortified roofing and the extra steps that you have to take on roofs, either as a re-roof or a new roof. So that even though it costs you more as a consumer, but in the long run, you're getting a lot better product.
So as an investor, how do we kind of manage what the differences in the construction industry and kind of close the gap on finding, number one, the best contractor, but also the best contractor that could fit into our budget?
So I think from an investor point of view, you need to think about it as time is money, right? So how much of the project you want to take on. The more you take on, the more you're going to save, right? And when I say say that, I mean, like, for example, if you want to manage like your tile guy, your your sheetrock guy, or whatever the case might be, you're managing more people that you have to be on the phone with. You have to know when you're going to schedule them. So if you take on those tasks, you will save some money versus hiring a general contractor, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you need to, in my opinion, you need to work to where your projects you're able to do them with a general because you want to be an investor, right? You into a business, not a job,
Yeah.
right? And the business is buy and rehab houses, but not for you to buy and rehab the houses.
Yeah. When did you recognize the pivot, right, from those first two projects into when you really started getting an understanding of the business and started hitting the stride and kind of knowing what to expect whenever you bought that next deal? Was it one deal or just what was the pivot that helped you realize that?
Deal number one.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Deal number one. I mean, it started like, we saw the problems. Then deal number two, for example, deal number one, we did a lot of the work ourselves. Like, we gutted it. We went in and did a lot of the framing. We did a lot of the work ourselves. The second one, we were like, we're not doing that again. So then we started hiring, right? Like, the sheetrock guy, that guy, this guy. And yes, it took away, more of the profit, but then we could continue on doing other things, right? Which is what you should strive for, which is you there for a business, not for a job, right? We all have a job.
Yeah. And you were still working at the time, or you?
I was still working, yeah.
Okay, so what does life look like during that project and still working full time?
I'm pretty sure my wife would say it's about the same, which is every night, every weekend, so pretty much no time.
Yeah.
Now that things have changed, but at least it's different.
Right.
Yeah.
And as far as underwriting, so now that you have the construction knowledge, a deal comes across your table today, how are you underwriting it? What are the current error margins, and what does financing kind of look like to get that deal to the finish line, from acquisition to selling it on the back end?
So it depends. So after you do so many, you kind of get like I said, you're not going to be 100% accurate. You can be real close, but you're not going to be 100% accurate. But like anything, like any business, you kind of get a sense of how much something's going to cost. So we don't, especially when you're having to make a decision that it has to go real quick, we don't sit down and overthink it. We just kind of go over what we've paid for something like that in the past, and we plug those numbers in, and then we give usually a 3 to 5% error margin to help us out. In reference to financing, I mean, thankfully we've been able to find a gamut of different sources, from your regular lenders to your private money and personal funds, so that's helped.
The experience, 'cause sometimes it's helpful, but it also could blindside you sometimes. So I know you spoke about your first mistakes in that first deal. What's some other mistakes with the experience that you could think of? A quick story where you still were experienced and still got blindsided and had to take a hit.
Yep. So the big one that comes to mind was in 2019. We purchased a home in New Orleans, and the thought was to add up square footage to it. We came up with a number, and it made sense. Ended up buying the property, and long and behold, the existing structure had just so much damage, behind it, and the cost to do the extra work, it just skyrocketed, like way, more than we ever, could have imagined. So we pushed through it and ended up finishing it. And then right at the time that we're finishing, COVID hits. So then, we have a lot of capital into this deal. COVID is right at, just beginning, where everybody's wearing masks and suits, and and you're looking like you're going to the space. I remember wearing even boots to go into a showing at the time, and people having cameras, right? So that was a fun time, and so I think if we would have waited, like 10 more months, we would have been fine. But because it had just started, right, we were already way over budget. We just said, you know what, we're just going to take a hit and take whatever we can get. And yeah, we lost, but it was the experience more than anything that we gained.
Gotcha. In reality, for the person that's either in a project right now, that's in over their heads, what's some of the options that you know now that you didn't know you had when you do go over budget? Like, what's some other resources, some other tools or approaches or exits that you kind of look back and say, we could have did this, but what's some other options when people go over budget that you learn that they probably could apply to a project?
So if you're going over budget, your biggest friend is going to be time, right? The more time you can hold on to the deal, depending on your holding costs, you have to kind of see how that works out. But usually houses tend to appreciate, right? So even though we're in a slow market, if you read every statistic and you see everything that's going on, prices haven't gone down. They've actually gone up. I think, 5% or something like that, 10, 15%. So they haven't gone down. They just less volume, but houses hasn't gone down, right? So over time, they will go up. Another thing is your exit strategy. Maybe you were thinking, okay, we're gonna sell it directly on the MLS. Well, see if you can restructure your financing and sell it on a bond for deed. You might be able to get a little bit more, drag that exit, a little bit more, and just something like that, or a lease option. There's just different ways to look at it. It's just that once you're there, again, we're entrepreneurs, right? So the whole point is solve problems, and depending on what it is, if that's what the problem is, then let's think about, and again, if you have a good network, you can sit down with people and ask, hey, what do you think I should do here? This is where I'm at, and what do you think I can do as an exit strategy?
So burning the house for insurance money is not an exit strategy.
It's definitely not an exit strategy.
Tell us about team building. So you learned in that first project, contracting is one of the biggest expenses. Second project, you were able to build on the network that you had from working with your friend in 2005. So today, with a full construction company, what does your team look like right now?
So pretty much we have everything in-house, except for plumbing.
Okay.
So we've been able to partner with electrical, AC, and we share costs. So that's how we're able to lower some of those costs for us.
Good.
And then the same thing for them. We give it, whenever we're doing business with them, we lower our costs to accommodate that. So that's how we're able to leverage that point. So I'm not gonna lie, having a construction company does making it easy in acquiring and being able to get the job done.
Yep. For our contractor, investor, people in the group, how do you attract and retain talent to even continue, your own crew moving forward? Because we've seen once a hurricane hit, the guys that we did have, they somewhere in Memphis, they storm chasing, and now our team has been dismantled. So how do you build and retain a team to try to continue that type of success?
Right. So what we tend to do is, number one, we pay them well. Well, then when I mean well, not overly what the market rate is, but yes, kind of like at that, top end. Of course, everybody wants to get paid, but on top of that, we want to make sure that you feel good, coming into work, with your coworkers, and we do a lot of team appreciations, like crawfish boils and 4th of July kind of gatherings, and end of the year parties for them, where we just kind of give some stuff to them just as a thank you for their service. And number two is keeping them busy, right? Just constantly being able to keep them busy, which is a nightmare for us, but it's good for them, because they know that come Friday, come Monday, they're gonna have a job, and come Friday they're gonna have a paycheck, right? Which is what most people are looking for, especially in the construction business, where you don't have that consistency. Then that's when they start like, okay, so I don't have a job here. Well, am I going to into over there? And then they start making that decision whether, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make more here for 3 months, but here I'm good for the for the year. So that's what we really work hard in making sure that everybody stays busy. Yeah.
Gotcha. So if you had to build a new team today, let's say we pick up Nick, shake him, and we drop him in Houston, Texas. You got to rebuild a team and build a machine that you have here in New Orleans. How you building that team? What's your first step? What's your first call?
My first step would be to start riding around and seeing where all the constructions are, and then start shaking hands.
Okay.
So start shaking hands. I would go into the site and like, hey, how are you? What you doing? So what do you do? And then kind of people are always proud of what they, okay, so you do this, what you done, kind of, and then start jotting down names, jotting down phone numbers, and do the same thing. Keep going, and just start building a list. I know I'm gonna need an electrician, a plumber, AC guy, sheetrock, framer, tile. So I just continue to do that, and go to different supply houses too, just to kind of see people coming in. It's like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, okay, so you do that, and kind of get their information, and that's how I would start, just to kind of start building that team. Then when the deal comes, just honestly, you're just gonna have to try them out, and then
trial and error.
Yeah, try and error, unfortunately. But you try it, as you're talking to them, you can kind of see their track record, right? One thing I will say, a good contractor is always busy. Okay, so if they're not busy, that would be strike number one. Okay. So if they tell you that they haven't worked in the last 6 months, that's a big red flag, right? They either don't listen to you, or they either want to change pricing after the fact, or there's always a problem, and that's why they're never busy. So a good contractor is always busy.
Yeah. And how does being a realtor kind of give you an advantage with this? So you're an investor, you took L's, you won, so you understand the underwriting piece, you understand the finance piece. Construction, you got that. So how does putting on that realtor jacket or putting on those realtor glasses, what do you see in a deal that you think a non-realtor might miss?
So I think the biggest advantage that you have being a realtor, honestly, is having access to the MLS system. It's such a wealth of information that you get, and that you're able to access it 24/7 on the brink. So if you're riding down the street and you see a deal and it kind of makes sense, you can go in, try to figure out what's going on, what the area market looks like, and just kind of underwrite that deal fairly quickly. So I think from that perspective, that's where, from an investor point of view, that's where the advantage is. From a realtor point of view, I think sometimes in no pun intended, that they more concerned on the transaction, right? So let's just get the transaction closed without maybe looking more into it and learning more into the what's going on and how this person is making it work, right? So.
And what's the difference? So for the people that don't have MLS access, what have you recognized? Because you weren't always a realtor. So what have you recognized the difference in the information that's available when you're trying to get comps and underwrite? What's the difference between having the MLS and not having the MLS with underwriting deals?
It's night and day. Wow. Night and day. To me, it's night and day. Yes, you have access to Zillow, but Zillow is not accurate. You have access to tons of resources out there, but they're not 100% accurate. What is accurate is the actual market, and the actual market is the MLS system. So as far as having access, that just and not only that, I mean, it gives you so much access to other information. Like, for example, you can go in and see, you can kind of tell, even though it's not 100% accurate, but you can even tell what was the last time they took a loan, how much they probably owe still on that loan. I use it for that. I use it like, when was the last time they closed? So if they close pretty close to when they're trying to sell it, they're probably not very motivated to work with you on price. Or if you're thinking, I'm going to offer, like most investors, I'm going to offer $200,000, and you go in and you see that the last loan amount was $250,000, then they're probably upside down, right? So they're not going to take the $200,000. So then you're going to have to try to find some other way to try to help whatever situation they might be in.
I like that. What other metrics does the MLS give you? Because a person that's not an agent could have the agent pull this information and help them underwrite, and a person that is an agent could go ahead and pull that information. What other metrics you would pull to try to, number one, gauge motivation of the seller? It sounds like that's where you're going, and underwrite the deal to the best of your advantage.
So I like I said, I look at that. I go in and I go and look at. It's not on the actual MLS. It's a different system that they give you access to, and you can see when was the last time it was closed, how long they owned it, what was the purchase price. Now you can get that from the assessor's office as well, but sometimes it's not accurate. And on the MLS is the most accurate that I've found, even though I'm sure there might be some issues, and David might say differently. And be able to see what loan amounts, also what it looked like. You can see past listings. You can see, like, for example, this house might have been listed 3 times. So you can see, okay, so in 2015, it looked beautiful. Now it doesn't, right? So then something happened between there and there. Or the neighborhood. What does the neighborhood look like, a couple of years back, by looking at other sold comps that maybe sold 5 years back? Like, are we getting better, or are we getting worse? So those are the type of things that I kind of dive into, like, that you have access to.
And how many realtors we have in the room tonight? All right, so tonight, now you can tell your sellers we can give you a 200% advantage on underwriting deals, because I know stuff that other realtors do 100%. Not when you're buying investment property. I like that strategy.
And if you're an investor and you don't have a realtor, please look around those hands and make sure you team up with one of those. Absolutely.
Yep.
Team
Investors
up with.
Looking for realtors that know how to get all of the down and dirty data.
For sure.
They hear Westbank Real Estate Investors.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would say, don't waste their time. And when I say don't waste their time, I say you have to do some homework yourself.
That's good.
Right?
Yep.
Like, let's look at Zillow real quick. Let's, see the free websites real quick. See if it kind of makes sense. Then let's make the phone call, right? If it makes sense, and okay, let's get them involved. But time is money, right? And if you start doing 50 deals with me, of course, I'm going to pick up the phone for you every time. But if you calling me 50 times and you haven't sold any, given me a transaction yet,
gotta do your homework.
I mean, I'm just trying to be real.
Yeah. We appreciate that. So, how much has technology changed or improved the construction industry? So, for an investor that doesn't have any knowledge but doesn't want to keep calling contractors out and not giving them business, what tools and technologies can we kind of use to at least get a ballpark or a feel of what this project might cost? Not close, but at least if I pick up the phone and call Nick, I'm thinking X, Y, Z, it might cost this versus not knowing anything at all.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent question, and I think that's a
$1 billion
business. It is a $1 billion business, and I am thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there is anything out there that can kind of help you. There's a bunch of software, like for example, Xactimate.
Xactimate. Okay.
Yeah, Xactimate.
That's what the insurance
adjusters use.
Okay.
And what he does is just they kind of do an assessment of the area of how much you should pay for something, but that's still not accurate, right? I mean, my price is going to be my price, right? And whether you think is there or not, it is what it is. That's what I'm going to charge. But it kind of gives you an idea, right? However, you do have to spend, I think it's like $3,000 for it, and it's a yearly subscription and lots of training. So it's more geared to someone that's making money from it, like a contractor or somebody in the insurance business.
Yeah. And what other homework could we do to approach a contractor, experienced contractor, that could help kind of make the project more realistic, for example, like having a layout already, having the square footage already? What's some things that, an outside person could have to try to build that relationship with a contractor and make it make sense for everybody?
Right. So I think one of the hardest things to do is when you walk into the job and they're like, what do you think? I mean, I think a million things, right? But what is it that you're trying to, your view might be different than my view. So it makes it a whole lot easier to know, okay, I want to change the cabinets, okay? This is what I'm thinking. What is your suggestion? Then that makes it easy. Now I can give you options, right? Especially if you're trying to lower price, like, go with this type of cabinet, this type of tops, depending on what price range we're talking about. I want to change the floors. Okay, what do you want? You want tile, you want, laminate, you want vinyl planks, and then have an idea of what you want, at least written down as clear as you can, just walk down the property like you would for your home, and just mention, okay, so we need to paint this room, okay? Usually, for example, in painting, just now that we're talking about painting, one color, try to stay in one color, right? For the entire thing. The more colors you change, the more price it's gonna get, right? So things like that. I would definitely, again, partner with those realtors and walk a done property. Then that kind of gives you the idea, okay, this is the type of finishes I need for this type of price range, right? And then make notes on the finishes, colors, trends that's going on. That would definitely do that.
It sounds like that's another value add which a realtor had. So you could still walk a project with another investor or builder and say from the comps I pulled, because it's itemized in the MLS, hardwood floors in this area, hardy plank in this area, shingle roof in this area. So
whether you need to have a garage or not. Okay, garage is just you just sink money into garage. It doesn't make you any money. But if the area calls for a garage, guess what? You're gonna have a garage. If you don't have one, then guess what? Your property is not gonna sell. It's not gonna sell. So if the area is like one bathroom type properties, then by you adding a second one, now you're making your property stand out, right? More desirable. So things like that. And again, just because I know more a little bit on the realtor end, also help out with maybe an open house that they might have, right? Go in, bring help with whatever they need, and then at the same time you being of service to them while they being a service to you.
Yeah. Sounds like you got operations pretty down pat. Talk to us about financing. So you say you finance your deals from bank money, hard money, private money. For the people that's raising capital right now for deals, in the past or even now, what has that experience been like for you with raising private money? What's kind of the reality day to day, what that looks like, raising capital for a deal? What would be your first steps if you had to raise capital for a new project?
So again, it's building that team, and what I would do is just never go to a big bank. Try to start making those, I would say, smaller banks. Go in and talk to the bank manager. Say, hey, I'm looking at buying this, even though you may not be buying it. Just do you have somebody in your team that you can refer me? And usually they'll give you someone. I would say it's a lot easier to do a commercial loan than do it under your name. There's different positive, negatives depending on your income. I mean, there's tons of things that will go into whether you have the income, then it might be better for you to do it under your personal name, right? If you don't have the income, then it's easier to do it under a commercial loan, as long as you have the funds to back up the deal. And you don't have to have the funds yourself, you just have to have the funds. You see this, so that makes it a lot easier on a commercial loan. On a personal loan, you have to prove that those funds are your funds. So plus or minuses, yes, rates are lower, terms are longer, depending on what you're trying to do, that definitely, can play a part.
And since 2015, I know you say avoid the banks. Some of them are still friendly with HELOCs and refis. Which bank, not to plug them, but which banks have been most consistent with being investor friendly?
So I never said don't go to a bank. We need them, right? So what I said is don't think that a big bank like Chase, Capital One, these banks, they already set in their ways. They already have like a clientele, a persona that they're going after. And unfortunately, it's not us. So your smaller banks like your Metairie banks, your Home Bank, Gulf Coast, those are going to be the ones that are going to look at your deal and be like, yeah, I'm willing to do it. Do you have the capital to back it up? And as long as you have the capital to back it up, they will do it. So, we have success with Gulf Coast. We've had a lot of success with Metairie Bank. So we have a great relationship with them lately. They've been doing a lot of our deals. So that's one avenue. Then as you start going, I think my business partner looks at everything kind of like when you're in the military. So as you in the military, you start earning your stripes or whatever the case might be, and I think one of the biggest stripes that we got and that we felt so peacock about it was when somebody was like, yeah, I'm willing to give you X amount out of my pocket for you to do your deal, like private money. So that was a nice experience. They're still still with us. They still do plenty of things for us.
So how would you pinpoint people having that conversation with you? Are you going out and knocking on doors and asking for it, or you think you're attracting it by the consistency and the track record and sharing what you do? What you think?
So if you don't have a family that is super rich, then like us, for us it was attracting them by our consistency. So it didn't come on year one, it didn't come on year two, it didn't come on year three. and the whole point of this is you can get started too, but be consistent, right? The more consistent you are, then that gets noticed. And people start noticing that, and they're like, like they're doing another one. Look here. Then they start trusting you that if they give you money, they're gonna get it back, and then with a return. And that's been one of our biggest things, making sure that that our private investors get paid.
Anybody in the room invested as a private money lender before? Show of hands. Okay. Terms. What did you learn from terms as a private money lender? I mean, we're borrowing private money, because we talked about deals going left, and time is your best friend. But sometimes that time doesn't line up with the terms that you had with the private money lender. So what do those difficult conversations sound like when we over budget or we don't have enough time? What did you learn about negotiating terms to kind of make sure the relationship doesn't get strained, but the project still get done and everybody get their money back?
Right. So I would say, thankfully, we've been close, super close, but we haven't had to go over any previously set amounts. We might have taken a bit longer than what we thought. Like, maybe we have a year's time, and everybody thought it was going to take us maybe 6 months, and it ended up taking us 10, right? So that kind of scenario has happened, but thankfully we haven't had to talk about, hey, how do we extend this? And lately, thankfully, though, again, it's like having a bag of different tools, right? So you went that way with this. Usually we go that way because it's quicker. Well, if for some reason that end does not panning through, then we know that we can always go like to the Metairie Bank, to the Gulf Coast, and refi it, right? Even though it might cost us more, it might go into a negative, but again, our main point is that we want to make sure that those investors get paid, and that they don't walk out with a bad experience.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying, even though you borrow private money, the deal still should be able to be able to eat a refinance for the amount that you borrow.
That's right.
So is that a backup plan that you share to your lenders? If it hits the fan, worst case scenario, this is our exit if it doesn't sell?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's exactly right, and that's how we do it. That's how we do it. And like I said, the reason why we go with private money is that when you look at the fees between that and paying a little bit more for maybe doing the private money, it kind of ends up being equal. But the beauty of it is that these funds are available to you now versus the funds from the bank. You have to first put out, do the work, get an inspector to come out, get draws. So it's a more lengthy process, that kind of thing, versus, okay, hey, here's $150,000, go do it, right? So you can just go to town. It just makes it much more quicker. We can get things done, a lot more efficiently.
Yep. And real quick, what's your elevator pitch? My name is Emil Walden. My dad is Sam Walden. I got a billionaire investor, Nick Zabeda. What's going to make me open a checkbook and write the $4.3 billion check to build on top of the Mississippi River? What's the elevator pitch?
I'll be honest with you. I'm still working on it.
Okay.
I'm just being honest. Thankfully, like I said, all of the people that we taking money from,
relationships.
These just been relationships that they've seen our work, they've seen our commitment, they've seen, hey, and then they approach us, and you might think that, hey, this is not going to happen to me. I promise you, if you stay consistent, you stay true, and you say and do, you do what you say, people will approach it. There's money out there. And in reference to financing, what I was going to say is, if a deal works, you will find the money. because somebody is going to either partner with you or give you the money, or if the deal works, you'll find the money.
Yeah.
You know, so thankfully we haven't had to go out and do this. Maybe as we start growing, yeah. But so far, I think we have enough sources that we've been okay.
Yeah. Talk to us about the being a builder. So how did that even happen? So you got into 2015, did the first 2 deals. Those were renovations. What was the pivot into going from ground up versus just gut jobs?
Again, we just sitting with my business partner and saying we hate renovations because we don't know what's going to happen, right? We think new builds is going to be a whole lot easier because everything is new, right? You just putting it on. There is no issues in new. So that's how it started. We just we tired of renovations. Let's just find a lot and let's do a new one, So I think that's one of the things that we've been able to do, just a little bit of everything. There's barely, other than a major development that we haven't done. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the difference? So for the investor experience of first time that's trying to decide to go in which direction of sticking with renovations because there are a lot of houses available, or going the builder route, what are some of the misconceptions of new construction that you kind of discovered that's not true? Because I think the same thing. I mean, it's brand new. Once the pollen's up, banded through everything in, it should be straightforward. But what's the reality with building new construction?
Well, the reality is that it's not as simple, because now you have parish officials, you have third-party inspectors having to come out and inspect what you're doing. It costs more. It doesn't necessarily cost less. It costs more. You have more things to go through, and especially in New Orleans right now. For example, we just finished one, and it's been a month, and we still haven't received. Even though it's finished, we submitted all the paperwork. We still haven't received the the certificate of occupancy, and that's just holding up the last bit of the deal. So. So those things that you don't, that you see, or where's the sewage? How much sewage is going to cost me to get done? Sometimes you go in and there was no previous sewage. So if there's no previous sewage, guess what? You're going to have to put one in if you want to sell the property, right? So how much is that going to cost? What I need to do, and that just involves a totally different realm of problems.
Wait, so vacant lots in neighborhoods all don't have?
No. If there's no,
yeah,
if there is no previous existing structure, then no. So most of the time, people are building, especially in New Orleans, there was a previous structure. So then it's easy. There's already something there, right? But if there's no previous structure, then you have to create one. You have to tie in one. And if there is nothing closed, then now you gotta, okay, how do we do this? And there's different ways to try to tackle that problem.
Yeah. What does work-life balance look like right now? Because you're not working, but now you have to be 130% engulfed in your business. So how do you manage that and family?
According to my wife, I'm not doing a good job. And I am not, honestly. Yeah. I love what I do. And that's what I think, one of the things that you should look into. If you like what you do, it just draws you, right? Because it's like an adrenaline. It's kind of like a drug, where you're just trying to get more, and that's what it is for us. We just try to work 12 plus hours a day, 7 days a week. And so whenever people tell me, 6 o'clock. They call me at 6 o'clock, and I'm still at the office. What are you doing at the office? I mean, it never stops. You know, it never stops. And I mean, I have fun. I like it. So if you think you're gonna get into this business or any business, okay, and think that you're gonna have pina coladas on day one and be by the beach, it will happen with time, right? When you look at the people that are doing it, I mean, these people have 30, 40 years of track record, right? Then that's when you start seeing the, you know, right now we barely have, you know, going on, what, 10? And I'm not there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting some benefits now. I'm seeing, you know, being able to do more traveling and things like that I couldn't do before. Also, having the availability of owning my time is one of the biggest things that I love, right? Because being in a job, you're not able to see all the different opportunities that are there. So an opportunity may not pan out today, but if you keep at it and keep networking and keep doing things end up happening, you know, 8, 10, 12 months. You know, that's how it goes.
Good stuff. So I know the contracting business is kind of growing rapidly. Tell us about some of these big projects that you guys are working on right now, and where you see the future going with the construction company.
So honestly, what I would like to do is, and which is why we set up the way it's, and that's the way that we were heading. But because of this little, you know, slowdown, we just wanted to do kind of like a DSLD type, you know, be able to, you know, get a development and do houses and self-manage the construction and the sale. That's what the big picture is.
Like a D.R. Horton, DSLD homes?
DSLD type, you know. That's the big picture. That's where we would like to go on that perspective. And currently what we're working is a bunch of things from commercial to residential. We're also working with one of your past speakers, Meredith, with VPG. We doing some of their concrete work. Currently doing one project with them in New Orleans. So again, that started here, right? That started going into these meetings, and I mean, like I said before, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow. These relationships started back in 2015 when we started going to NOREIA, right? And they grew, we've grown, and you know, ended up partnering some of these projects with them as well. So,
what is the 2024 Nick? What advice do you give to the 2015 Nick?
I say to be a more risk taker. I think
what you mean?
I was very risk minded, so I would try to think of ways to secure our deals more than I should have. We should have taken more risk, but you don't know that until you get the experience. Which is, I'm not suggesting for you to do that, but if knowing what I know today, I would have taken more risk. Like we was at the very beginning, we'd just take one deal because we thought that's all we could handle. I mean, knowing what I know right now, I would, especially at that market, I would have taken 20 at once. You know, and most people think that I would be insane, but yeah.
What makes you say that, and how do you think you would have managed the risk? If you would have took on more, knowing what you know now, how would you mitigate those risks from taking loss?
By the team you have.
Okay.
Right? So knowing what I know now, then, you know, you build that team, and then now you have that confidence in your team. You can tackle anything, right? So that's why I would say that I'll be more risk open to risk than I was. Because again, we're just starting out, just want to make sure that at least we're not losing money, in the very first ones. And but looking back, I think we could have taken a lot more risk.
Speaking of risk, you looking for properties right now. How can the group help you? What type of properties are you guys looking to take down on the investment side? And then tell us a little bit about what type of clients you're looking for on the contracting side. So for the wholesalers in the room, listen up. What type of deals can they bring to Nick?
So currently, because of the way the market is, we've pivoted into rentals. So we really heavy into that. We currently bought 6 lots, and we're going to do 6 duplexes on them, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for lots where I can do duplexes, or I can do multifamily on in Jefferson Parish, or anything else but Orleans. and I don't know if you guys know why, but I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Please, I don't know. Well, I know various reasons why, but what's the reason?
Well, my reason is, and you can have your reason, but my reason why I don't want to do rentals in New Orleans is they just passed a new ordinance. And David can give you more details on that, but they just passed a new ordinance where now you have to have a permit in order for you to rent your house. It is free. They're not charging anything, right, today. But we know how this is going to go, right? Next year, they're going to look at their budget and they're going to say, well, now we need to hire 5 more people to do these inspections. Well, where the money's going to come from? From the landlords, yeah. And guess what that landlord's going to do? Is going to pass it on to the tenant. And then we wonder, how we're going to get housing for low income, right? It's a never-ending game, like insurance and taxes, and on top now having to get these inspections done. So that's why I'm personally staying away from Orleans, unless it's such a good deal and a new. Like I would not do a rehab. I would just do a new build.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And Steve, you come up. We're about to take questions from the audience. On the contractor side, what's your best ideal customer? Like what type of customer is you guys bread and butter that you can service from start to finish?
I mean, honestly, we just take on anything and anybody. You got money and you have a project, give us a call.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody give it up for Nick. We're about to take audience questions real quick. Okay, by show of hands, any questions for Nick before we wrap up? Yes.
So that's in Orleans Parish, and that's for rentals. So if you have, I think you just came into for 4
units.
4 units. So if you own a 4 unit or up, you have to get this permit. But by the end of the year, if you own 1, you will have to get it. Okay, and if you don't have it, then there's repercussions, and also there's different things that the tenant can do now to complain about that rental.
You're talking about healthy homes.
Yes.
And if you need a specialized leasing company, a leasing professional, make sure you come see me in the back. Lease management company specializes in leasing in tough market for landlords and investors. All right. Next question from the crowd. A little bit louder.
Okay. Yes, it's through the permit office, and you go to the permit office, which we have a great relationship. and it's like applying for a permit, and they go through the process. They come out, they do the inspection. If there's things that you need to fix, they'll let you know what that report is. And right? No inspections. I thought they were the inspections. Okay, so I stand corrected. Thank you, David. Just the permit. Yes. Okay, great thing that you mentioned that. Okay, so what she mentioned is, okay, electrical codes have changed. Well, not only the electrical codes have changed, everything's changed. Okay, the 2021 codes it's a complete revamp on a lot of things, which certain things are good. But my point that I'm trying to make is, on an existing structure, as long as you don't touch something, then technically you don't have to bring it up to code. Now, if you got to change that panel, then yes, you got to bring it up to code, right? But if there's nothing wrong with it, it's working, it's then you should be good.
And everybody, go back to the the Zach Smith episode. If you go on YouTube, Westbank Real Estate Investors, Zach Smith. Zach Smith is a consultant with the permit office, so he's an excellent resource for questions like that.
He is.
We
work
use
with
him already?
I use him.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, perfect.
Yeah,
And
that's the only way we can get things done.
Yeah, and he did not pay for that. So go back
Yes, he
to
did not pay for that.
Yeah,
Zach, you owe
Westbank
us
Real
money.
Estate Investors. Yep,
Yes.
Zach Smith Consulting.
Yes.
To push permits through. Any other questions? Elvis.
It depends, but yeah, usually a rehab might take you 3 to 6 months. A new build is going to take you 6, easy, 6 months. Does that answer your question?
Question.
Okay, so when I said selling on the MLS, I meant selling it through a regular market, right, where you list it with a realtor, and it goes on the MLS system, and all the realtors get to know about it. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is just you marketing it yourself, and you could do it also with the MLS, but there's certain conversations you need to have with your realtor, but you can sell your property yourself with what's called a bond for deed, right? A bond for deed. And what it is that you become the bank. So there's we can sit here all night.
So make sure, David, raise your hand.
Raise your
on
hand.
bond for D, make sure you talk to
David.
David about structures and most recent definitions, because even those things have changed also. How can people get in touch with you and Right For You Construction?
So my cell phone number is 504-648-7517.
Say it one more time.
504-648-7517. And if not, just Google Right, the number 4, the letter U, construction, and you'll find us online, or you prefer social media.
And for the people on YouTube, how far do you guys travel? So for the person watching this in Texas, Oklahoma, how far are you guys going out?
So we haven't taken anything in Texas, but definitely, we'll go to Baton Rouge and the North Shore and Thibodeau and the areas. But if it makes sense, we can talk.
Okay, all right. Well, you dropped some gems for us tonight. Nick is going to stick around if you got more questions for him. Steve's going to come up for needs and one. Give him one more big, loud Westbank Real Estate Investors hand clap for Nick Zaveda.
Thanks, Nick. That was awesome, man. I appreciate you.